Hello, Sangha. Welcome to the Abbots Address. Today is Monday, October 12th, 2015, and we're going to pick up our conversation about the causes of the six principles of cordiality. I was having this conversation for a while, and then my source material was required for other purposes, and now it's back to me so we can pick up the conversation. And actually, the timing works out great. It happens to be in that mysterious way, perfectly topical and timely for some things that are actually going on in our community right now. So let's look at the next point. We were talking, if you recall, about bodily acts of loving kindness, verbal acts of loving kindness, and then mental acts of loving kindness. And remember, these are the six principles of how to make cordiality or harmony, how to actualize harmony in the Sangha. And for those who've studied the precepts, you know that actualizing harmony in the Sangha is a big deal, right? Now, point 4. Again, and I'll read it straight the way it's translated here. A monk enjoys things in common with his virtuous companions in the holy life. Without making reservations, he shares with them any righteous gain that has been obtained in a righteous way, including even the mere content of his alms bowl. This too is a principle of cordiality that creates love and respect and conduces to unity. Now, so that's the point. So now we're talking here about owning things in common. And it's kind of interesting to me because recently His Holiness the Dalai Lama was on a news program and being interviewed, and he said something that for some people might have been kind of shocking to hear. For me, I kind of knew it already, but he just came right out and said, "I'm a Marxist Buddhist. I believe in communal ownership of things." And I think for some people that might have been kind of a surprise. But actually, if you look at the history of the Sangha, and I'm speaking specifically of ordained monastic vow of poverty, vow of celibacy, vow of obedience type of religious life, it's completely communistic. I mean, it's everybody literally owns nothing, but everybody owns everything in common. And this, of course, isn't just a Buddhist thing. You see this today if you go to a Benedictine monastery or a Cistercian place or a Franciscan in the Catholic tradition, and I'm sure in other traditions. This is kind of commonplace. See, it's part in most of this kind of religious practice of residentially based living together life. It's a living in common. See. And the idea is that by living in common in this way, come and be transformed, come and be realized, you see. So the question comes up, okay, how or if, does this actually relate to us, you see? So as I've often said, yes, I'm fully ordained and I'm an abbot, but I would never self-identify as being monastic. I'm a priest, so there's a difference here, at least in the way it's functioning. So yeah, I'm married and I've got a mortgage and a kid and a professorship and this kind of stuff. So how about that? How does this function? Well, interestingly, the first point here is that a monk, and I'm going to now switch the language to a practitioner, a Sangha member. Okay, so a Sangha member enjoys things in common with his virtuous companions in the Sangha, with his or her virtuous companions in the Sangha. So the first thing is this enjoyment. Okay, so a practitioner enjoys things in common. This is very, very important. This is not saying a practitioner is austere at all times with a scowl and a seriousness. This is not saying that. This is saying that a monk or a practitioner, in our case, a practitioner enjoys things in common with the Sangha. Now, this enjoyment, okay, enjoyment is fantastic. There's no problem with enjoying practice. Zazen is the place of ease and repose. Okay, it's joyful, can be, right? So how does that translate for us? Well, one of the things is that the temple is something that the community has custodianship of, the space itself, you see. So a simple way of manifesting this would be to say that, any Sangha member that comes into the temple space, you could make a simple gesture of helping to clean the place, find a rag and dust something, um, even if it doesn't need dusting. It's not the point. I mean, the point is to show that you're caring for everything in communion with everyone else, hopefully in a visible way. It's very good to see the abbot sweeping the front entryway or something like this. And that's true for all of us. We all take care of the space that we practice in together, and we enjoy it together. It gives us a home for our practice and a place to physically be. This is a big deal to have this. Um, so enjoying things in common with the virtuous companions in the holy life. So enjoying things in common with the Sangha. Um, an example would be that, upon the mountain seat ceremony, some Sangha members presented as a gift to the abbot this particular kind of awesome incense burner. And the gesture was beautiful, and I received the gift. But of course, we all understand that that's everybody's incense burner. That's not just the abbot's incense burner. It's there for everybody, you see. And this is the way of considering this and holding this. Now, I'd like to say that, I'm very in favor of entrepreneurship. I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. My mom and dad have an extremely successful business that's been around since a little bit before I was born. So I've grown up in an entrepreneurially apt household. My sister has her own business. We're talking about Carpets by Otto. Art by Kelly is my sister's business. She does phenomenal murals and paintings and different little art projects she makes. Her husband has a business of software, kind of a business, BizTech, I think it is. So, gosh, my mom's brother has a company called Sabco where they recycle beer kegs and make things. Okay, so I'm very pro-business. I think it's fantastic to have people create things. I own a business as far as now that I'm thinking about it. My martial arts school is technically an LLC company that I own. So it's okay. I'm not saying everybody has to own everything in common forever and we all become communists now, but within religious practice, within the Sangha, there is an attitude here that is very important to hold and to understand and to honor. Okay. Now, without making reservation, they share with them any righteous gain that has been obtained in a righteous way, including even the merest content of the alms bowl. So this is very important. Some members of the Sangha are actually quite affluent. Some members of the Sangha are very, very, very scarily poor. Okay, and most people are somewhere in between, right? So whatever capacity a person has to contribute is honored. Every place in the mandala is absolutely sacred. So there should be no sense of shame or guilt or privilege uh, in regards to one's amount to contribute. Financially, I'm speaking of now. This is not the point. It's simply a matter of honoring where you actually are in the mandala. That's what it's about. Now, topically, we had a leadership council meeting yesterday, and we're having conversation around session and how to finance session and how to pay for session. Now, most Sangha have some kind of a recommended donation per day for retreats, and that's very common. I mean, that's very, very common. It's occurred to us, however, that also most Sangha don't, at least that I know of, they don't have an annual canvas. See, so in our community, we have an annual canvas where we ask people to make a pledge for the year in terms of financial giving to sustain the temple. This is very necessary because there's budget, there's line items, there's rent and stuff like this. So what we're doing, what we're playing with here is we're leaning towards changing session fees so that they're not a fee or a suggested donation per day model, but rather just included in a person's annual gift. And the reason for this is that A, it'll make the finances much more stable. Okay, so that'll be a much more, what we really need is a stable monthly financial base rather than a big spike when there happens to be a session. Because during those downtimes, rent still needs to get covered and this kind of thing, see. And then also, it'll make it easier to buy the things that we need for a session and to take care of the fiscal management. A lot of times the session costs happen before the session actually occurs, and etc. Okay, so it's not so much a matter of making session free, because there are costs to session, of course, and we do ask for contributions. These contribution goes towards helping the Sangha exist, you know. But it is unhooking the idea of a suggested donation per day. So the idea here is that Sangha members will consider what an average day session cost is, and those numbers are getting worked through, and then simply factor that in to the best of your capacity in your annual contribution. Now, there are some folks, like I said earlier, for whom it's just science fiction to contribute for, say, 2 weeks worth of session at the highest possible rate, and there's just no way to do that. Well, contribute what you can. Of course, that's fine. Some other folks can easily pay that amount. It's not a problem, and so maybe they'll kick in a little bit extra to help support. See, but the idea is that session is not just for yourself. Session is not just for yourself. Session is for the entire community. So when you come and practice and take your seat at retreat, it's not just for yourself. Of course it's for yourself, but it's not just for yourself. You're also sitting for the entire community in a very, to me, in a very real way. The fact that session is happening, even if you may not be able to physically be at that particular one, the fact that session is happening makes the Sangha stronger. It makes the practice of the entire community stronger, more solvent. It makes our community more and more what it actually needs to be, which is practitioners of depth who are plumbing into the reality of Buddha Dharma and getting it involved in their lives. Of course, everyone benefits from this. So rather than thinking like, I'm paying for my day of my session, it's rather the thought of, I'm contributing to the pool of funds that help session be available for members of our community. And we contribute to that pool according to our capacities and our means, and how much we might be dipping out of that pool to use those funds for session. So I'm grateful that the Leadership Council is thinking this way and is leaning in this direction, and I do feel strongly that it's ultimately going to be a really good thing to do. If we end up deciding this has been a miserable failure and we don't like it, we can certainly undo it and go back to a donation per day model or something like that, as is normative, to be fair. But in my view, I think this business of really taking ownership of session for the community, the Sangha, I think this is important. So let's continue to keep the dialogue going, and let's keep our hearts and eyes open. 6 principles of cordiality. When a practitioner enjoys things in common with their virtuous companions in the Sangha without making reservation, they share with them any righteous gain that has been obtained in a righteous way, including even the merest content of an alms bowl. This too is a principle of cordiality that creates love and respect and conduces to unity. So, take it up, consider it, and of course, not just in relationship to session and stuff like that, but in relationship to life, share. And the most important thing you can share actually is the Dharma. Share your practice. And I mean that in a very particular way. Share it by practicing well and living well, and be a blessing to all those who encounter you. Okay, thank you everybody. We'll see you next time.